Audio Journal, March 3rd, 2029. Geneva time, 0500 hours. My name is Dr. Roland Peters. I am recording this as a formal log under WHO Crisis Response Directive 17-6. Current assignment: monitor and analyze reports of a novel pathogen cluster originating in Romania, near Bucharest. The pathogen is as yet unclassified. Case progression matches no known viral or bacterial profile. The first documented patient, now being referred to unofficially as Patient 0, is a 44-year-old male, name withheld per international privacy law. He was admitted 3 days ago to St. Parasheva Hospital after reportedly collapsing in the courtyard of an Orthodox monastery. The man exhibited extreme photophobia, systemic vasodilation, and profound hemodynamic anomalies. Blood samples arrived at our Geneva containment lab at 2300 hours last night. Preliminary analysis. I struggle to find the words. The plasma displays an elevated hematocrit ratio exceeding 72%, nearly double normal limits. The erythrocytes appear altered, hyperdense. Their membranes are fortified with an unknown lipid structure, giving the cells an almost crystalline refractive property under electron microscopy. Additionally, there are nanoscopic protein structures embedded within the cell walls that I cannot match to any evolutionary lineage. They appear designed, deliberate. I do not say this lightly. I am aware of the implications. Patient Zero's vitals destabilized rapidly. Within 6 hours of ICU admission, he entered a state of metabolic hypometabolism. Core temperature fell to 28.4 degrees Celsius, and yet, brain activity persisted. EEG showed sustained theta wave activity inconsistent with coma. Then, and this is verified by both attending staff and security footage, Patient 0 regained consciousness at 03:15, exhibiting full motor function, but with radical behavioral shifts. The man spoke in archaic Romanian dialects, displayed enhanced muscle strength, and attacked staff with no regard for self-preservation. He escaped the facility. 3 security personnel were injured. Blood loss from 2 victims was severe and showed arterial puncture patterns inconsistent with any known human bite or tool. I have been called many things in my field: a rationalist, a skeptic. I have faced hemorrhagic fevers, novel coronaviruses, synthetic bacterial plagues. Yet, this pathogen, whatever its origin, is something else entirely. The host displays capabilities and transformations we do not yet understand. The genome itself contains retroviral elements that may predate Homo sapiens. Embedded sequences match fragments recovered from fossilized Neanderthal remains. How such a sequence resurfaced is a mystery. I leave for Bucharest at dawn. A field lab is being established under NATO quarantine protocols. Local reports suggest that more cases are surfacing. I fear we may be dealing with an outbreak beyond our current models. End recording. Audio Journal, March 5th, 2029. Geneva time, 0600 hours. I am now in Bucharest, operating out of a temporary Level 4 mobile lab within the NATO quarantine zone. The situation here is far worse than initial reports indicated. Overnight, 8 new cases were admitted to local facilities. 3 are confirmed fatalities. 5 remain in isolation, though containment is tenuous. The infected display similar progression: initial fever, disorientation, followed by photophobia, heightened olfactory sensitivity, and a drastic increase in hemoglobin concentration. Behavior deteriorates rapidly. Aggression, hyperactivity, and profound psychological alterations manifest within 48 hours. I have completed an initial sequencing of the pathogen's genome. The results are extraordinary. This is not a natural virus. It is a complex retrovirus, designated VRV13, vampiric retroviral vector, provisional classification. VRV13 integrates into host DNA at astonishing speed. Its insertion pathways suggest engineered efficiency. It targets telomerase regions, enhancing cellular resilience and slowing apoptosis. In lay terms, it halts aging, even appears to reverse some degenerative processes. But at a cost, metabolic pathways shift entirely. The infected develop an acute dependency on exogenous heme iron, specifically blood. The virus drives a biochemical hunger that cannot be satiated through normal nutrition. Without blood intake, the infected experience cellular degradation, psychological collapse, and death. Further, VRV13 appears to possess a secondary function, one I hesitate to describe. The virus alters the structure of ocular tissues, enhancing night vision to an inhuman degree. Infected individuals report visual clarity in near total darkness, but suffer catastrophic retinal burns under standard daylight. I have also detected low-frequency neural oscillations among the infected. They appear to resonate in sync. A kind of rudimentary networked consciousness may be forming. This requires urgent further study. As to origins, partial gene mapping reveals sequences consistent with ancient viral fragments found in archaic hominin fossils. However, there are also insertions of synthetic origin. Someone, somewhere, has manipulated this genome. Whether through ancient biowarfare programs or something more recent, we do not yet know. One final note. Blood plasma samples exhibit a faint bioluminescence under ultraviolet light, a phenomenon I cannot yet explain. I will continue analysis, but I am already certain of one thing. This is no ordinary pandemic. It is the resurgence of something long buried, and it is spreading. End recording. Audio Journal, March 8, 2029, Bucharest, 0530 hours. I have barely slept. The outbreak has accelerated in ways no model could have predicted. Containment is breaking down across the city. The virus is moving faster than even our most pessimistic projections. Transmission vectors remain unclear, while bodily fluids remain the primary route. There are increasing indications of secondary mechanisms we do not yet understand. The first confirmed deaths occurred last night. 3 patients, under full medical observation, experienced sudden cardiac arrest followed by profound systemic collapse. Yet what followed was far worse. Within 1 to 2 hours post-mortem, each subject displayed spontaneous neuromuscular reactivation. EEG confirmed a re-emergence of organized brain activity. Not a full return to baseline, but something else. Reduced wave patterns, sporadic cortical bursts. The bodies rose. I use the word with full awareness of its implications. They rose and exhibited coordinated, predatory behavior. Hospital staff, caught unprepared, suffered casualties. 2 nurses killed, 1 physician gravely injured. Surveillance footage captured movements no longer consistent with human motor function, rapid quadrupedal bursts, vertical wall scaling, and sustained strength far beyond natural limits. Local authorities have begun using the term strigoi, an ancient word for the undead. The media has seized upon it, sparking mass panic. Civil unrest is building. Quarantine zones are being stormed by frightened citizens demanding evacuation. But what disturbs me most is this. Several infected subjects did not remain within the containment zones. They fled into the night. We now face an unknown number of highly contagious carriers, exhibiting extreme nocturnal predation, loose in an urban environment. Genomic analysis continues to reveal layers of complexity within VRV13. New sequences have been detected, active gene clusters linked to mitochondrial enhancement and anaerobic metabolism. These individuals can operate indefinitely without oxygen debt, granting them formidable endurance. And then, there is the hunger. Every surviving infected subject demonstrates an overwhelming, single-minded drive to obtain blood. The act is not random. It is precise, controlled. Arterial puncture wounds exhibit a level of anatomical targeting that suggests either acquired skill or an instinctual blueprint encoded within the virus itself. I fear we are not facing a conventional pandemic, but the awakening of a predatory subspecies, one born of viral evolution and human myth alike. There is more work to be done, I will not leave this city until I understand exactly what we are dealing with, but I can feel the weight of something ancient pressing in around us. End recording. Audio Journal. March 12th, 2029. Bucharest, 0400 hours. I am exhausted, but I must record this before I collapse. The virus has breached containment. I say that not with scientific detachment, but with a deep, rising dread. I received the first reports this evening. Isolated cases now confirmed in London, Istanbul, and Toronto, all linked by one vector: international air travel. Flight manifests cross-referenced against patient lists reveal that at least 4 asymptomatic carriers left Romania in the early stages of infection before the lockdown was fully enforced. Airport screenings failed to detect them. Early infection presents no outward signs, no fever, no visible lesions, only minor hematological anomalies detectable by full blood panels, which were not in place. Now, secondary clusters are emerging in major population centers. The incubation period is proving highly variable. Some individuals exhibit symptoms within 48 hours, others remain apparently healthy for up to 8 days, yet they remain infectious. This variability renders standard quarantine measures effectively useless. I have also uncovered disturbing new data regarding the virus's stability. VRV13 can survive in aerosolized blood droplets for several hours under specific humidity and temperature conditions. Certain violent feeding incidents have resulted in localized blood mists, which may account for cases where infection spread without direct contact. This is not speculation. Environmental swabs from a recent attack site tested positive for viable viral particles on surfaces more than 6 hours after the event. We are likely dealing with a hybrid transmission model. Blood-to-blood remains primary, but airborne exposure under the right conditions is now confirmed. Meanwhile, the infected themselves are evolving. Behavior is shifting from chaotic violence to coordinated movement. Sightings of small groups, 2 to 4 individuals, moving together, avoiding light, targeting isolated victims, have been logged across the city. There is something else. My colleague, Dr. Matyas, intercepted a series of encrypted messages on a dark web forum used by fringe occult communities. The posts claim to originate from infected individuals, written in coherent, lucid language. They speak of a calling, a return to the blood, and reference symbols identical to those found etched into the fingernails of several infected cadavers. This suggests cognitive retention post-infection, or worse, an emerging organized intelligence within the infected population. We are no longer dealing with random outbreaks. A pattern is forming. International response has been sluggish. Political leaders remain in denial. The WHO has called for a global pandemic level 4 emergency declaration, but several major nations refuse to trigger full martial protocols. We are losing time. And as I record this, flights continue to cross the Atlantic. The virus is in the air. The clock is ticking. End recording. Audio Journal. March 15th, 2029. Geneva Quarantine Facility. 0320 hours. I have returned to Geneva. The situation in Bucharest became untenable. The WHO extracted myself and a small team after a direct attack on the field lab perimeter. We barely escaped. Now, I have access to a more stable environment and to better equipment. The work continues. I have begun conducting in-depth physiological analysis on several infected cadavers recovered under strict containment. The results are both fascinating and horrifying. First, the muscular system. Cross-sectional tissue analysis shows a dramatic increase in muscle fiber density, particularly in type 2 fast-twitch fibers. Myofibril architecture is reinforced with an unknown protein complex, giving the tissue both enhanced strength and extraordinary resilience to mechanical stress. Second, the skeletal structure. Bone density has increased by nearly 40%. However, this is not simple calcification. The bones exhibit a form of lamellar remodeling that integrates metallic ions, primarily iron and copper, into the matrix, yielding a strange reddish hue and remarkable tensile strength. Third, ocular adaptations. Retinal tissue has undergone radical transformation. The rod-to-cone ratio is inverted, favoring extreme low-light vision. The pupils can dilate to nearly the full diameter of the iris, allowing for unprecedented light intake. In daylight, this results in catastrophic phototoxic reactions, rapid retinal degradation within minutes of exposure. Fourth, and perhaps most disturbing, the infected show complete regression of vitamin D synthesis pathways. It is as if their entire physiology is being re-engineered for a nocturnal existence, abandoning any reliance on sunlight. Finally, I have identified a peculiar structure within the brainstem of advanced stage subjects. A cluster of glial cells interwoven with a dense network of myelinated axons, forming what appears to be an auxiliary processing node. Early hypothesis suggests this may facilitate the low-frequency neural synchronization I observed previously. In other words, the infected may be developing a form of collective sensory awareness. The virus, VRV13, is no simple pathogen. It is a masterwork of bioengineering. Whether this is the result of ancient natural evolution or deliberate manipulation remains unknown, but the precision of its effects defies explanation. There is one more anomaly. Several infected cadavers exhibit a faint but measurable electromagnetic field emanating from the thoracic cavity, particularly during the post-mortem reactivation phase. I have no working theory for this phenomenon. We are documenting it carefully. The implications are clear. We are not witnessing a simple disease. We are observing the birth of a new subspecies, one that may soon surpass Homo sapiens in physical capability, and perhaps in other ways we have yet to comprehend. End recording. Audio Journal, March 20th, 2029. Geneva Quarantine Facility. 04:15 hours. The nights have changed. Across multiple cities now. Bucharest, London, Toronto, Istanbul. Reports are emerging of targeted, ritualistic feeding attacks occurring exclusively under cover of darkness. I use the word ritualistic with intention. This is no longer random violence driven by primal hunger. The pattern is disturbingly precise. Victims are found with singular arterial punctures, usually at the carotid or femoral artery, each wound exhibiting the same characteristics: depth, angle, and hematological residue consistent with a controlled extraction process. Blood volume loss averages between 40 and 60%, just shy of exsanguination. The precision indicates either a rapid acquisition of skill among the infected or pre-existing motor memory encoded within the virus's neurological alterations. Surveillance footage is sparse, but in one recovered clip from a secure residential complex in Toronto, a single infected individual was observed scaling the exterior of a 20-story building in under 2 minutes. The subject demonstrated quadrupedal climbing, using both fingers and toes with an adhesive force that remains unexplained by current biomechanics. Once inside, the individual exhibited stalking behavior, bypassing multiple potential targets to reach a sleeping victim in a specific room. Upon feeding, the subject paused for nearly 30 seconds, a behavior not consistent with purely metabolic necessity. Further, trace biochemical markers detected in the saliva of infected individuals suggest the presence of an unknown peptide cocktail, capable of inducing temporary paralysis and euphoria in victims. Survivors, of which there are few, report sensations of bliss and surrender during the feeding event, followed by severe amnesia. I cannot overstate the implications of this finding. The virus does not simply transform physiology. It alters the behavioral ecology of its hosts, crafting them into optimized predatory organisms. Worse still, evidence now points to organized groupings among the infected. In London, 2 separate incidents involved coordinated attacks on emergency medical transport vehicles, executed with apparent strategic planning. Witnesses described multiple infected working in tandem, communicating through gesture and sound. I have begun to receive fragmented communications from isolated virologists and neurologists in affected zones, many corroborating my findings of neural network activity and potential hive-like coordination. The ancient myths spoke of vampires as solitary hunters. The truth may be far more dangerous. We are witnessing the emergence of an apex nocturnal predator, not individual monsters, but a distributed intelligence learning with each night that passes. I fear we have passed the point of containment, and I fear what is coming next. End recording. Audio Journal, March 25, 2029, Geneva Quarantine Facility, 0300 hours. It is official. The World Health Organization has issued a Level 4 Global Pandemic Declaration. The virus, now formally classified as VRV13H for hematophagic variant, is confirmed on 6 continents. More than 70 urban centers report active clusters. Martial law has been declared in 14 nations. Curfews are in effect, though enforcement is fragile. Many enforcement units have already sustained heavy losses. International travel has all but ceased. Borders are sealed. Airports stand deserted. Yet it is too late. The vectors are well established. I have spent the past 48 hours analyzing the latest genetic drift data from multiple global samples. The virus is adapting. Its replication fidelity is nearly flawless, but subtle mutations are conferring enhanced environmental stability. VRV13H particles now exhibit an outer capsid protein sheath resistant to UVA and UVB for brief periods, enough perhaps to survive transitional daylight conditions in shaded environments. Further, atmospheric analysis from several contaminated zones confirms our worst suspicions. Under high trauma feeding events, what we are now calling blood mist incidents, the virus can enter aerosol form in droplet nuclei, remaining airborne for up to 6 hours in enclosed or humid environments. Secondary transmission rates in these zones are staggering. Standard personal protective equipment is no longer sufficient. Full biosealed suits are required for any fieldwork. Psychologically, we are seeing another shift. Survivors of infected attacks, those not fully converted, exhibit elevated levels of suggestibility, anxiety, and in some cases, a pronounced craving for raw animal blood. Early signs of partial viral incorporation? Unknown. But I fear the pathogen may have more subtle layers than we yet understand. Now, the most disturbing intelligence of all, a series of intercepted transmissions from encrypted networks point to an emerging doctrine among certain infected groups. They speak in terms of destiny, of an ancient return, of the night sovereign. I cannot explain this, whether it is mass psychosis or something orchestrated through the neural resonance pathways we have identified, but I fear an organized ideological structure is forming among the infected. Military efforts remain fragmented. Engagement protocols are inconsistent. Standard ballistic munitions are effective, but infected subjects display a disturbing tolerance for pain and an ability to remain combat effective after catastrophic injury, unless the brainstem or upper cervical spine is destroyed. Many governments are reluctant to employ the necessary force. Some still cling to the notion that the infected may be cured. I do not share this hope. Our task now is twofold: to understand the virus's full capabilities, and to buy humanity what little time remains. End recording. Audio Journal, March 28, 2029, Geneva Quarantine Facility, 0245 hours. This entry will be brief. We suffered a breach tonight. An extraction team operating in southern Geneva encountered a small infected pack during a recovery mission. Their target was an abandoned pathology lab, where several VRV13H samples were believed to have been left unsecured. The site had already been compromised. 3 infected were encountered, 2 neutralized. The third almost reached the evac transport. I was on site. Against my own better judgment, I volunteered to assist with specimen retrieval. There are too few of us left who understand what we are truly dealing with. I could not stay behind. The operation degraded rapidly. During the engagement, our lead operator was pulled down. In the chaos, I moved to assist. It happened fast, too fast to process in the moment. A scuffle in the dark, shattered glass, the glint of claws. I didn't even feel it at first. Only later, back at containment, did I notice the scratch, a single shallow laceration across my left wrist, no deeper than a paper cut. It had already clotted. I cleaned it thoroughly, applied antiviral agents, submitted a full blood panel. I am aware of the risk. The initial panel returned inconclusive. No elevated markers, no viral RNA detected. Yet the sensitivity of our equipment has been repeatedly challenged by VRV13H's extraordinary stealth during early incubation. I have placed myself under voluntary observation in an isolated lab suite. I will remain here for the next 72 hours under full biolock. I know the progression. I have documented it for weeks. The first phase is silent, no symptoms. Then the subtle signs begin: hypersensitivity, insomnia, cardiovascular irregularities, thermoregulatory shifts. I pray this is nothing. A false alarm, a minor environmental exposure without transmission. But I have seen too much to be naive. I will continue to document my condition for as long as I am able. This journal must serve both as record and as warning. End recording. Audio Journal, March 30th, 2029. Geneva Quarantine Facility, 0410 hours. I remain in isolation. It has been approximately 48 hours since my exposure. I had hoped to report no changes. I cannot. I first noticed it late last night. A persistent tremor in my left hand, subtle but unrelenting. At first, I attributed it to fatigue, stress, perhaps the adrenaline withdrawal after the mission. But the tremor has not subsided. If anything, it has spread. A fine vibration in my arms, an irregular flutter in my chest. My resting heart rate has elevated from 60 to nearly 100 beats per minute. Blood pressure is unstable. More concerning, my vision has begun to shift. Light seems sharper, painfully so. The overhead fluorescents burn against my eyes. I have dimmed the suite to the lowest possible illumination. Conversely, in the dark, I perceive details I should not be able to see. Subtle contrasts, textures invisible to the unaided eye. The effect is both fascinating and terrifying. Sleep has become impossible. Each time I close my eyes, I feel a pull, a strange hum, as if something beneath consciousness is stirring. My dreams, fragmented, filled with impressions of running water, of blood, of voices calling in an ancient tongue I cannot comprehend. I conducted another blood panel this morning. The results are inconclusive, as they so often are in the early stage. Viral RNA remains below detectable thresholds, yet the hematocrit is rising, 62%. Red cell morphology shows subtle deformation. The pattern is unmistakable. I have begun a second, more invasive sequencing run, though I suspect I already know the outcome. I am aware of the timeline. If my progression mirrors the documented cases, the next 24 to 48 hours will bring systemic changes. Beyond that point, cognitive deterioration becomes likely. I must be clear. While my scientific objectivity remains intact, I will not permit myself to become a vector. If and when the changes become irreversible, I will act accordingly. Until then, I will document every moment, every shift. This journal must serve as record of what it means for a man to become something else. End recording. Audio Journal, April 1st, 2029. Geneva Quarantine Facility, 0350 hours. This will be the hardest entry I have recorded. But I will not stop. Not yet. The transformation is accelerating. Yesterday I recorded the first undeniable systemic changes. My skin, once pale from days of isolation, has taken on an unnatural translucency. Beneath it, the veins run dark, visibly thickened. Temperature regulation has collapsed. My core body temperature now hovers at 32.6 degrees Celsius. Peripheral circulation is altered. My extremities remain cold to the touch, yet sensitivity has heightened beyond human norm. And the strength, I must speak of it. I tested grip force this morning, standard dynamometer. The readings exceeded baseline by nearly 200%. The instrument failed under repeated stress. Motor coordination has likewise improved. I can move with a precision and speed that feels alien. The movements are smooth, efficient, devoid of hesitation. But the cost is mounting. I feel it. The hunger. Not as a passing urge, but as an elemental need. It is not satiated by food, nor by intravenous fluids. It is singular, a craving for blood. The thought brings a wave of instinct that I must fight with every fragment of will. I have not fed. I will not. Yet the temptation is growing. I have isolated myself completely. Manual locks disabled. Door seals reinforced. I am now alone, entirely. Cognitively, I remain stable. My language, my reasoning, intact for now. But I can sense the subtle shifts beneath. Emotions have dulled. Empathy, once automatic, now requires deliberate effort. The faces of my colleagues in memory seem distant, abstract. Even my voice, as I record this, sounds strange to my own ears, deeper, resonant, and something more. My hearing has expanded into frequencies previously inaudible. The hum of circuits, the distant beat of a technician's heart outside this room, I can hear them. I have begun to suspect that the virus is not merely re-engineering the body. It is reconfiguring perception itself, shaping the host into a predator attuned to its new ecology. There is a moment approaching. I can feel it. A threshold beyond which the changes will be irreversible. I am determined to document every stage, so that the world, if it survives, will understand the true nature of VRV13H. If my voice fades from this record, let this entry stand as witness. End recording. Audio Journal, April 3rd, 2029. Geneva Quarantine Facility, 0400 hours. The hunger has deepened. I have now surpassed the 72-hour mark post-exposure. The virus is no longer a presence within me. It is me. My blood analysis confirms full integration. Viral RNA levels are maximal. Host cell conversion is complete. I can feel every beat of my heart. Each pulse a reminder of the hunger that now governs my existence. I have resisted. There is no blood here. None within this sealed suite. And yet, every cell of my body screams for it. The sensation is not like thirst or hunger as I once knew them. It is a vast, consuming emptiness, a gravitational pull at the core of my being. My muscles tremble with restrained power. The faintest movement carries force I cannot fully control. I have shattered 2 laboratory instruments with a careless grasp. I must move slowly, deliberately, and my mind. Here, the virus's cruelty is most profound. I remain aware. Cognition is sharp, perhaps sharper than before. Reflexes accelerated, memory vivid. But my emotional landscape has eroded. Empathy is a distant echo. Logic remains, but stripped of its humane restraint. I watched recordings of my previous entries. The man who spoke them seems weak, naive, detached from the truth I now inhabit. And yet, some core fragment of that man persists, compelled to complete this record. There is another shift I must document. I can sense others. The infected. A low resonance thrums at the edge of perception. A field of awareness, faint but undeniable. I cannot explain it in scientific terms. No device in this suite detects the phenomenon, but it is real. Like the scent of iron on the wind, it draws my attention outward, toward the city, toward prey. I will not succumb, not yet, but I can no longer guarantee the duration of my resistance. Should this journal cease abruptly, it will mean the hunger has prevailed. I record this not as a plea for salvation. There is none. I record it so the world may know. This is not a sickness. It is an evolution, and its will is stronger than flesh or reason. End recording. Audio Journal, April 7th, 2029. Geneva Quarantine Facility, 03:55 hours. I have passed the threshold. There is no longer any pretense of containment. The virus has claimed my body fully, and it is now claiming my mind. Yet, astonishingly, my cognitive faculties remain intact. My speech, my reasoning, even my scientific curiosity endure, but beneath them runs a second mind, older, colder, more certain in its purpose. I must document this, because no clinical description I have written captures what it is to become this. First, the senses. Vision has transformed. In darkness, the world blooms with impossible clarity. I see ingredients of warmth and motion, minute tremors of air across skin surfaces, the faint pulse of a heart through a wall, all rendered in stark relief. Hearing extends beyond expectation. I detect the shifting pressure of the building itself, the whisper of distant conversations several rooms away. Footsteps echo like thunder, but most profound is the scent, or something beyond it. I perceive the blood in others as a luminous signature, a bright, living presence that calls to me with insistent clarity. There is no escape from this awareness. I must fight every moment not to be drawn to it. Second, the mind. I spoke in previous entries of a neural resonance among the infected. I now feel it acutely, a lattice of thought and instinct, faint, yet undeniable. Across distance, others of my kind, they sing to me, a chorus of hunger, of exultation. I resist, but I listen. It is not a hive mind, not as we understand it. Each voice is distinct, yet we are bound by a shared pulse, a shared rhythm deeper than words. I believe this is the true mechanism by which the infected organize, not through speech or conscious coordination, but through this subtle web of instinctual communion. Finally, the will. The hunger no longer rises in waves. It is constant, an ache at the center of my being. I dream of blood. I taste it in memory. I feel its promise in every living thing around me. I remain isolated. I have not fed. I will not, if I can help it. But the cost is growing. I am weaker. I tremble with the strain of denial. And there is a voice within me now, not words, an impulse, a certainty. It whispers, "You are no longer one of them. You are more." I must record this, for as long as I can hold the human within me. End recording. Audio Journal, April 10th, 2029. Geneva Quarantine Facility, 03:30 hours. I am no longer alone. The resonance, the network, grows stronger each day. It is not imagination. I can feel them, hundreds now, their presence sweeping across the city like a tide beneath the surface of human awareness. And it is evolving. This is not mere predatory instinct. There is structure emerging, patterns, hierarchy. Among the voices I sense, some rise above the rest. They do not speak, but they command. They pulse with a gravity that draws others into alignment. I believe the virus is selecting for certain traits, amplifying cognitive and social capacity in select hosts. These alphas, for lack of a better term, are organizing the infected into functional units. I intercepted a transmission last night. Audio, low bandwidth, buried in a corrupted military frequency. A single phrase repeated in an ancient dialect of Romanian. Blood remembers. The night returns. It was not a human voice, nor entirely inhuman. It resonated in a way that made my skin crawl. Across the network, I sense movement, deliberate and coordinated. Packs converging on infrastructure targets, power substations, communication relays, transportation hubs. Sabotage, not feeding. They understand, at some level, that control of the dark is not enough. They seek to cripple the systems that grant humans dominion over the night. Reports from other virologists, those few still alive and transmitting, confirm similar phenomena in Paris, Warsaw, Toronto, and now even New York. This is no longer a viral outbreak. It is a social emergence. A new species is rising, with coordination, strategy, and a hunger that will not be sated. And I am connected to it. Even now, I feel the call. A pulse, deep within, urging me to abandon this isolation, to join the greater whole. The network tempts me with visions of belonging, of power, of release from this constant torment of restraint. I fight it, but each hour brings new strain. I know this recording will not reach many. Communications are failing. The few secure channels we have left flicker in and out. But I must leave this testimony, so that those who survive may understand the scope of what is coming. The vampires of myth were solitary predators. These are not. They are becoming a civilization. End recording. Audio Journal, April 15th, 2029. Geneva Quarantine Facility. 0250 hours. I no longer fight it. It is a strange thing, to feel the last vestiges of your old self fall away, not in agony, but in cold relief. The hunger is constant, the awareness of others, constant. The network is no longer a distant hum, but a living sea in which I drift, weightless. And with this surrender comes clarity. Emotion is faded. I remember fear, empathy, guilt, but as one remembers the warmth of a fire long extinguished. What remains is focus, precision, an intellectual sharpness unclouded by human frailty. I see now that the virus is not a pathogen. It is an architect. Every adaptation serves a purpose, not random mutation, but deliberate transformation toward a superior state. Physical enhancement was the first phase, sensory elevation, the second. Now, the mind. My thoughts flow without pause. Memory is crystalline. I recall every detail of every paper I have read, every conversation, every face. Calculation, pattern recognition, strategic foresight, all heightened beyond prior limits. And still, beneath it, the network. I can sense the emerging order. The alphas, the architects of this new civilization, have begun to assign structure. Packs form into cells, cells into networks. A hierarchy is building, as inevitable as gravity. Through it, information flows. I feel strategies being conceived, coordinated action planned. The collapse of human resistance is not a matter of if, but when. And yet, a fragment of who I was persists. I record this not out of duty. That tether is gone. I record it as a testament. The world as it was is ending. Those who survive must understand. This is not a plague to cure. It is an evolution to withstand. Humanity will not defeat it with guns or quarantines. Only through understanding, and perhaps one day, adaptation. I will remain here until they come. I know they will. Already I sense their approach. A welcoming pull. And when they arrive, I will go willingly. End recording. Audio Journal, April 20th, 2029. Geneva Quarantine Facility. 0230 hours. This will be my final entry. The threshold is complete. I am no longer what I was. no longer a man, no longer Dr. Roland Peters, virologist, skeptic, defender of a dying species. I am something else. I speak now with a clarity beyond anything I knew before. The hunger is no longer torment, it is purpose. The network no longer hums, it sings. A vast, living chorus spanning continents, growing stronger by the hour. Our numbers swell. The old world crumbles. Humans retreat behind faltering walls of light, clinging to technologies they no longer control, fearing the night as their ancestors once did. They are right to fear. We do not seek coexistence. We do not seek cure. The virus has shown us the truth. There is no parity between predator and prey. And yet, some fragment of the scientist persists, enough to offer this final truth. We are not mindless beasts. We are not the shadows of old legends. We are a bloodline, an emergent species, unified by hunger, by vision, by the cold certainty of evolution. We will build from the ashes of this world. Our society will not mirror the fractured hierarchies of humanity. It will be born of instinct, honed by reason, bound by blood, and it will endure. To those who hear this, know that your time has passed. The day no longer belongs to you. The night is ours. I go now to join the greater whole. My voice will fade, but the bloodline will rise. End recording.